There's raccoons all over the place.
My
Raccoons.
God. Raccoons. But they're scary too, though.
Raccoons. Uh-huh.
They're scary too.
I don't know where they came from, but they're all over.
Oh, man. This is crazy what I'm hearing.
You got criminal, whatchamacallit, criminal immigrants or whatever.
I heard.
These people, not all of them, but they're vicious. You know how them people are?
Because where they
I
come
don't know
from.
why anybody...
It's very
Man,
competitive.
I heard somebody say about a month ago, they said New York has been done, and the people are still there. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, true. True.
One man was saying, he said, if I was young and living in New York, I'd be down here so quick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure why anybody would want to stay there. A one bedroom is like $2,200 a month.
That's what I'm saying. Because you know why? It's almost like you ever go out in the nature, and I mean really out in nature in the country, and you see tadpoles, right? And it rains, and there's like a little shallow bit of water on rocks, and all the tadpoles are swimming around, and there's a bigger body of water that they can get to, but they don't. But then the sun dries out the water, and now it's a little 3-foot area of water, and the tadpoles are stuck there. So it's almost like if you didn't get out in time, you're going to be stuck there because the rents are going to go up. You're going to have the same job or multiple jobs to just make ends meet and not enough money to leave. So I would not be able to come back to New York City to live with what I get from my pension. You see what I mean? Unless I go there and work on top of it. It'll be wasting. Why go there and be the middleman to just work and just hand your money out for rent, the basic stuff, and you're in New York now and can't really enjoy it because you got to hustle in your mind. That's the part I don't understand. Like, rich people can come in, oh, we had a good time, because money's not an issue to them. And for the people who are in industries where money's not the issue to them, they can be there and like, oh, this is New York, we love it. But when you got to get up and come into Manhattan or work, then that money's not enough. You got to go to your next job in a daytime, 2 jobs. I don't care if it's a full-time and a part-time. Some people work 2 full-time jobs. For what? And 6 days a week? Then the days you off, you got to do your laundry. You got to do stuff. You got to rest. Bing, you got to start the process again. That is crazy. And deal with the rats and the crime and the fact that with a lot of these migrants, they're giving them money, big money, phones, taking care of their apartment. And you got people who live there who got to work and can't even halfway hold on to what they got. Now, not all the migrants got it that way, but I got to tell you a rat story. I don't know if you remember or know. There's a McDonald's on, I believe it's 3rd Street. I don't think it's 4th Street. It's 3rd Street. And they have, what's the name of the famous basketball court there on 6th Avenue? Right there. And they have sometimes. Yeah,
West 4th Street.
Yeah, it must be 4th.
4th Street Park.
Yeah, but it's on 6th Avenue in the Village. And it's got to be either 3rd or 4th Street.
Yeah.
Right, it's 4th Street.
4th Street.
Okay, yeah.
West 4th Street.
Right, and I forget the name of it. Now, across the street. Oh, okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, let me tell you a story about that McDonald's. And this was about maybe 1987. 86, 87, 88, right around in there. Oh, I wish I had a camera walking around. I'll have more stories to show you. But you got to take my word for it. I was there. So, anyway, me and, I don't want to say a name, nothing bad. She's deceased, so I'll just, me and her walking around. And it's like 2 a.m. because we would go down to the Village. We'd hang out sometime all night because there's always something going on down there. Then we get something to eat. Then we come home and rest. Right. You know the style. I'm just, so anyway, we walking past this McDonald's. It's closed. And we look and we're like, yo, look at that. Now I'm going to tell you, the counter where the cashier would be with the cash register, full of rats.
Yeah.
About 6 or 7 rats. They jump down to the ground. They jump up. There's some in the back that you can see because it was partially lit up where they make the food, where they put the food out in the hamburgers after the goes. There had to be like 15, 20 rats in that place. This was back then. So I know what you're saying now about the rats. I couldn't deal with that. Now, look, the few years that I have on you and the way I was out there, I've seen a lot of rats now, but not like what you're telling me. Like I would see a lot like on the third rail jumping around, or you see like, oh man, there's a rat. Because when you see them, you say something about it. But what you explained to me about them dudes in the corner and the 8 rats and the other dudes, that was mad funny. That they didn't even jump because they're used to seeing it. And the rats are used to seeing the people, so the rats don't jump. So they walk right up on you.
I was shocked.
Damn. So it's going back down, but now it's going to go back down in a bad way, worse. Because I
remember when I was like 3 and 4, we had a rat, not a mouse, a rat problem in the house. Because you remember the library down the street on 95th Street? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember there's a library there.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Well, they built that in 1969, 70. And when they were building it, I don't know, the whole block just became infested with rats.
Right.
So I remember my father killing them, or whatever. But then, didn't have a problem no more. Stop, right? Never seen a rat in the house. Besides that, the only time I would see a rat, and I probably can count on both hands how many times I've seen a rat in New York. And if I seen a rat in New York, it was in the subway. In all of my 38 years, besides, the house.
The only other time, well, not the only other time, I've seen rats, but not like what we are talking about. I've seen rats in every borough, every place, but I was always out there. So that's what's going to happen. But the bottom line is, we were by Beach Channel High School when it was being constructed back in the 70s. See, it's old news for most people. Yeah, I went to Beach Channel a couple of years ago. I watched them build it. And we used to go over down Cross Bay Boulevard out to Rockaway, right? Far Rockaway. And they used to have a little under the bridge. There was like this little walkway, and there's water right there. So people would go there and fish. Yeah. So the times my father didn't want to go all the way up to upstate to this Lake Sebago we used to go to. It was very nice. On the weekend, sometimes we were sitting home. He didn't even plan. I said, let's go get some bait and go fish. And we go fish for a couple hours and come back with a lot of fish. So Beach Channel High School is at the end of that road. It was all this sand and all these bricks that they were using to build the high school. And when it got started to get dark, you see the rats just running down on the sand right there by where they're building. It was crazy, but it wasn't like you'd see it occasionally, like every few minutes. Oh, there's another one. You got tired of looking. They didn't come over by us, but that's just the way it was. So, yeah, it was, but yeah, New York City now, like, okay, the old gritty Times Square was what created a balance. It was necessary. The gritty sex shops and stuff in the whole overall city, that was a designated area, right? And tourists didn't have to deal with that in other parts. It crept up 8th Avenue, a little bit down 8th Avenue, or 7th Avenue, whatever. But when you go down to 34th Street, you didn't have to be bothered with that. When you went to 57th Street, Central Park South, you didn't have to be bothered, or 59th Street, you didn't have to be bothered with that. Columbus Circle, East Side. West Side from Times Square on was nothing but prostitutes on every intersection. Yeah. And we went out there looking at them all the time. You know what I mean? Because they were healthy. It was like, oh man, look at that one. Look at this one. It wasn't like when crack came, prostitution changed. Now, we weren't out there soliciting, but That was part of going to Manhattan. We went down to the restaurant or going here, walking around, checking out girls. Before we left, let's go up on the west side and zigzag all the blocks and look at the breasts and the butts and everything. See who was in the car getting head. Just crazy stuff, right? But when they cleaned all that up, it had to go somewhere. And then crack came. That's what kind of. But there was an order to that, like pre-crack. Times Square, there was an order to the streets. It was out of order, but it was like what the cops were saying in their mind, you over there, keep that over there, don't bring it over here, and we'll let you breathe. You had pimps from South Carolina and Georgia, you see the license plates and they had the cars and the matching minks, and you saw some real things, you saw the real thing. Now the other place was Hunts Point. Hunts Point was dangerous because there's one way in, yeah. Have you ever been by the Hunts Point Bridge? It's just a little. It's not even a bridge, like a bridge where it's like.
I've seen it on HBO, but I've never been there.
Right, HBO made a series about it. It was so bad, but before they made the series, old Lance was up there with his friends driving around, and it was like warehouses, and it was like mainly for restaurants. Where you had the 18-wheelers come from all over the country, from down Texas and California, up Canada, wherever, to bring things that weren't native to the area. And restaurants would go pick their stuff up there wholesale, right? So it had that smell, the food and the rotten stuff. But this, when I say bridge, it wasn't even like a block long from what I can remember. It was like half a block, and you had Spofford right there, where Mike Tyson was when he met Muhammad Ali and all that stuff. But it's like you didn't realize it was a bridge, just raised up a little bit.
I've been to Spofford.
Okay. Yeah, so when you go in, to me it was like miles and miles of blocks that were all warehouses that were shut down. And it was a different world. Dark blocks, busted street lights, like little doorways in the warehouses. I mean, I saw people screwing on the hood on the vehicle. It was a free for all. Prostitutes. A lot of them had pimps. A lot of them didn't. You just drive through there. I remember driving through there one night. It was me and my friend who is deceased, that I don't want to say her name. There's another one, right? The one I mentioned before, out of respect. So we were just, let's go over there and look at Hunts Point, because she was just as crazy as me as a male. She's a female. So what freaked us out, we were driving and we went down this dark street, and she was like, yo, don't go down that street. It looks too scary. I'm like, listen, if we go down there and somebody pops out, I'm going to have to run them over. So we went through that block, and it was spooky because this chick, we went by the stop sign and this car was going by, and they were doing the same thing, looking at the prostitutes and the freaks out there. Because there were some people who, they weren't prostituting, but they came out there like morbidly obese, damn near midgets. Like, what are you doing out here? Nobody's picking you up. So we stopped with this car going in front of us. Yeah, for real. Like with 3 teeth in their head. Like, what gives? You ain't gonna make no money out here unless somebody was like, oh, I gotta find me a morbidly obese midget with 3 teeth, boy. I need to be scraped up with that kind of head. So we stopped. Yeah. And so I'm talking to her. There's nobody behind us. The car passed already because we just sightseeing. All of a sudden, somebody runs up on her side, and this was that's when I had the old Mercedes Benz. They ran up on her side and was almost on their knees, like they were so weak, and somebody beat them up, and the face was bloody, and the woman was screaming for help. I don't know what it was she was running from, but she had blood all over her face, and when her face touched the glass, lucky it was up because it was wintertime, and blood was all over the side of the glass. And she screamed, and I was like, oh, I didn't even look to see if anything was coming. Nobody was out there, but I just jumped out in the street past the stop sign. If there was somebody coming, they would have hit me. But I'm going to tell you something. Those times in Hunts Point, and sometimes on the west side of Manhattan, driving around in the red light district, it is imprinted imagery in my head. I have dreams still about this place. And it's like, I have this dream where I'm in areas like that, and it's dark, but it's light enough from the street lights, enough. Not every street light's working, but enough to see, but it's not brightly lit. And always in these dreams.
Yeah, enough to see a figure.
Right. Always in these dreams, like you can see 3 and 4 blocks away, down here, down there. You could see cars in the distance, like far away, like 3, 4 blocks away, but never where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would go down to the street in the dream where those cars would pass by regularly, you don't see them no more. You turn around and where you were, that's where you see the cars. So I'm like, what kind of dream is that? But all of those times, like I said, from 12 and 13 years old, slipping out, hopping on the train and going to the city by myself. And like I said, I was comfortable because my father having his own business and going around all of them areas, everywhere in Manhattan, in different parts of the borough. If he had a gig like he was doing for 3 or 4 days to refurbish the floors or whatever, I'd get to know the kids in them areas. And so you never stop knowing them. So now I'd go Washington Heights. I go to certain parts of the Bronx, 13 years old on the train. Brooklyn, certain parts. Manhattan's some white boys in the Village. You know what I mean? Like all kind of people. And I had a place to go. So other people were like, man, you go way out in the city and you go way, it wasn't way out like that to me. How you know all these people, man? You so young. So that helped me to have a safety net when I went out places like that. So by the time I hit 14, 15, and I started bodybuilding, my body got, you know, like a man from early. All I had to do was borrow a eyeliner pencil from a woman and ask her for it, and I painted a little mustache, put a hat on. I'm a man now. So I got to get up in all kind of places and see these things. So this is why I always, even I don't doubt myself, but I ask myself, where the hell am I getting all these stories from? It's because I started early and I was always out there seeing stuff. And I was always a magnet for it too. You know, it's crazy. You know, the other day somebody sent me a video of Melba Moore. And I remember walking down Broadway in the 50s. And I was coming down maybe like 52nd, 51st and Broadway. Around in there is where David Letterman had a show. He had it was like, it looked like a theater, but it was where he had a show. And it was Broadway. And I was going into this little deli when delis weren't expensive. This had to be back, honestly, like about 1980. I had this Polaroid camera, maybe 79. I had this Polaroid camera around my neck. I thought I was saying something. Yeah, Polaroid camera. So I opened the door. This just popped in my head. I'm just telling you about it. I opened the door to the deli, and out pops Melba Moore. She had no makeup on, no nothing. Her hair was short. She still looked nice. I was shocked. I said, Melba Moore, oh, can I take a picture of you? No, I'm sorry. Sorry, no, I can't. And I'm like, why was she so mean to me? But when I saw the program of what she was going through at that particular time in her life, I was like, okay, I understand now, because she was being ripped off. And she was in a bad time. That same block, I think it's the same block as Letterman's show, on the same side, or maybe the next block up, there was a Chinese restaurant. And this had to be back like 82, 83. I wouldn't say 84. It was early on. I'm sitting there eating, and guess who comes in with a big belly, a big medallion on his chest, and a big cowboy hat? Al Sharpton, the fattest Al Sharpton you ever want to see. And he came there with 2 or 3 other people. And he wasn't even famous locally. It was just that I always paid attention to the media, the news, the radio. And I was like, that's the Reverend Al Sharpton. I was by myself. And I kept looking at him. And he kept looking back at me like, what the hell is this guy looking at me for like that? Because, see, he wasn't super famous at that point. He had did a few stunts because, you know, he wore wires. I think it was for the FBI on Don King. Yeah, I know. And on the Mafia. So it was these days that he was, he was an informant. You know what I mean? So I have a proclivity, our favorite word, right? For sniffing informants. Not because I saw Al Sharpton there, but.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
When we were like 11 and 12 and 13, every Sunday we used to roller skate to LaGuardia Airport.
Wow.
And we'd roller skate the little highway and whatever. and go roller skating through the terminal. It was so smooth, you know. We did that every Sunday.
But you couldn't do that now. You couldn't do that now.
We're roller skating.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're roller skating in the terminal, and it's like a downgrade, a slight downgrade, and so I'm going real fast, and I couldn't stop. I'm getting ready to run into this man, which I did run into him, and he's trying to keep me from falling. I'm trying to keep him from falling. We've been struggling to keep each other on our feet and everything. And finally, we both got our balance. And when I looked in his face to tell him thank you, it was Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, my God.
I literally roller skated into Sammy Davis Jr.
Only you. Only you. Only you and only me. Yeah, these kind of stories. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because I looked and to tell the man thank you, and when I realized who it was, I said, "You're Junior Davis Sammy. Davis Sammy Jr."
You messed it up.
Davis Jr.
That's funny. That's funny.
He said, "Yeah." He said, I was like, "Thank you, Mr. Junior. Thank you."
Oh, Mr. Junior.
He said, "You're welcome, baby."
Wow. Wow. The Candy Man. Hey, the Candy Man. All right, everybody. Gather around. Madam Whip-Ass is here.
I just right into him. And and so I remember actually my brother's godmother and his wife out to Beach were first cousins. So I got his name and address out of the Ride On magazine, and I wrote him a letter like a month later.
Really?
And and I asked him for an autographed picture. And then I went to California. That was the first time I went to California for the summer. And when I came back, I had mail from him.
Oh,
and he sent me a big 8x10 photograph of him autographed by him. I still have it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep, he sure did. I reminded him who I was. The girl who ran into you with roller skates.
And he took time and did that, though. But these stars don't do that now.
He sure did.
They don't do that now. They would never do it like that now. They give you the middle finger, right?
Shit.
Madam Whip-Ass can, the Whip-Ass can, Whip-Ass can, cause you roller skating until you can get a photo of me. Madam Whip-Ass can.
Yeah.
Get an 8x10.
I used to sit down and watch a lot of celebrities. And just yesterday, I was looking, on the internet because, Rosalind Carter passed away.
Yeah, I know.
And I got a postcard from Amy Carter.
What?
Because I think we're about the same age. Yeah. I had written my father. That's the first person. I remember my father told me to write her. That's the first famous person I ever wrote to.
Wow.
And so he had the address, because,
But that was more the norm. Yeah, people did that those days. You think they got time with text messages and emails? You glad to get an email back from somebody. And it won't even be them. They take time to write. I got a postcard from her. Wow.
Yeah, and I got a postcard from Gary Coleman.
Wow.
I wrote Gary Coleman, and he sent me a postcard. Wow. I think it's stock, of course, but yeah.
But they still, just to we need to go back to those days. I remember having a crossed phone line, not the loop line and the busy signal like I used to tell you about, but this was actually a cross phone line. And this white girl from Texas and crossed up with me. And we were talking like, where are you from? She said, I'm from Texas. How'd you get on my line? She said, well, how'd you get on my line? So we were asking each other. She was asking about New York. She was like, oh my God. Because we were both like 14, 15. And so I was fascinated. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I said, "Will you live on a farm?" I was stupid. I'm thinking like, I said, your father has them big hats and you got a pickup truck or something like that. Is oil near you? And she was asking me stuff about how tall the buildings were and all that stuff. She said, "Do the buildings fall down?" I'm like, "Nah." Well, she's a prophetess now because it fell down in 2001. But we swapped addresses and we wrote letters back and forth to each other. But I wasn't interested. Like,
oh wow,
it wasn't like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get with this girl." I was young and just curious, and a couple of times, and after a while it stopped. I remember her telling me how she loved Van Halen or some other group, because Van Halen wasn't out at that time, but it was some other group. Oh God, Rolling Stones or something, Bee Gees or something. But yeah, that was a very interesting thing. But did I tell you about the? I told you about the loop line and the busy signal, right? Did I ever say about that?
The loop line.
I spoke about it one time on my show. The loop line and the busy signal, they're in the same. This is a phone thing now. And I had stumbled upon phone freaking. No, this wasn't phone sex. This was phone freaking. This is what people in the early days, they had computers, but they had the big behind computers. And these people had access through the tones of phones to crack into other computers. And phone freaking was spelled with a F-R-E-A-K. It was P-H-R-E-A-K-I-N-G. Phone freaking. It was an official thing. And I stumbled on this thing. How did I stumble on it? Well, I was calling somebody and I got a busy signal. I was calling somebody from Queens into Brooklyn. And I heard bam, 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 bam. But I heard noise. Like there was somebody, like somebody was on the line. So I stayed on. And I heard them say something like they were waiting for a call to pick up. And they said, he ain't going to pick up. Clip. And they hung up. I was like, oh, snap. So I stayed there. 10 seconds later, bam, bam, bam. If this fool don't pick up, it was somebody else. So I said, okay. 20 seconds later, click, click. I heard the click. I was like, hello? And it was this chick on there. Hello? I said, hi, how you doing? So, is this Fred? I said, no, this is not Fred. I was hip to the fact now that somehow, some way, I couldn't explain it, but it was really true. Like, you think and this is back in the day, I don't know about now, when you make a phone call that the person's line is busy. Yes, it is busy, but if you could think of it this way, in an abstract way, when you call somebody and it bounces off their line and sends you to a place where there is a busy signal, right? That's the best way to explain it. It's not no physical place where there's a busy signal. It's all electronic.
Yeah.
But not every busy signal is open where other people who are referred to the busy signal because their calls are busy. It's not always like that. There were certain phone exchanges that always had this. And I found this out because it was a person that was there. And I remember his name, Steve Number One. This is some weird stuff there, Madam Whip-Ass. I got there and he said, hello? I'm like, hello. He said, what are you doing on my line? I said, what are you talking about? This is my line, but you can stay. Who is this? Lance? I said, yeah, how did you know my name? He said, I heard you on here a couple times. You got hip to the fact of the busy signal. You were trying to talk to girls. I was like, oh man, I felt bad because that's what I was doing. Once I realized that you can call certain numbers that would always be busy, there were certain exchanges that you get directly to a busy signal. Bam, bam, bam. Dudes come on, you like, let them hang up. Sometimes you didn't know who was it because they quiet. So it was crazy. So I'm like, what is this? He said, my friend, you've reached a busy signal. It was like a movie or something. So I'm like, well, how is it like this? He says, if you get into this, you're going to ruin your life. You don't want to know. Well, I found out from other phone freakers, right? It was like a movie. So I'm fascinated with the phone. So I wanted to find out who these people were. So after a while, there was a whole host of characters that were on the. But why are you grown people on a phone line that's bam, bam, bam? So what they would do, they had computers. And they used.
You mean while they were talking, the bam, bam, bam was going on, right?
Yeah, but you don't hear it no more. You hear it, but it's like you're so focused on the conversation, you don't hear it no more. And
that sounds very familiar to me.
Well, maybe you heard that. Maybe you reached that place. Most people haven't, don't know what the hell it is. You could actually Google it. The loop line. I think the busy signal will fall. The loop line is something different, but it's how these illegal hackers. Right? Like there's no legal hackers, right? The government, right? But like hackers operated under the radar and they would do illegal things. Somehow get to people's money, get to banks, get to the White House or Pentagon, or they do stupid. These were hackers. So this dude, Steve Number One, was the most notorious one on the East Coast. And he used to work for the telephone company. See, I got intel on him from talking to all these little phone freakers, right? But I wasn't one. And anytime I came on, they knew my number. Hey, is this Lance? Hey, what's good? They befriended me. This is crazy, right? So they never told me the illegal activities that they did, but I knew there was something to it, right?
Make sure to check out the boldest blog at LANCESCURV.com and follow SCURV on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube under LANCESCURV.